The perfect cosmic moment to make a radical change in your life that shifts your reality forever is now. Hola, my beautiful souls. Welcome back or welcome to my channel where we aim to merge the cosmos with everything self-development to become our higher selves every day. If that sounds like something you're interested in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss future videos like this one. And be sure to follow me outside of YouTube if you want additional content and background content. You can also download my free astrology cheat sheet, which makes astrology so much more digestible and easy to follow. Today is all about the revolutionary planet Uranus moving into the zodiac sign of Gemini. This is happening July 7th, 2025. At the time you're watching this video, it has already happened. We're at the very start of it. However, it's going to last until 2033, so it's here to stay for a very long time. And the last times that Uranus was in Gemini, we had some very revolutionary historical moments going on. Even though the outer planets cause a disruption on a collective level, we are going to be talking about the ways in which you might start feeling this on an individual level. Because after all, everything happens on an individual level before it dominoes into the collective. So in this video, we'll talk about some of the major aspects that are touching Uranus as it moves into Gemini that will affect us on an individual level. As we move through the reading, I will be giving you empowering tips. So be sure you have your notes ready so you can write those down as I mention them, because those tips are meant to provide you an active way to use that energy intentionally. That way you're not just learning about the energy for no reason. You're actually being provided a way to use the energy productively in your own life to make the radical change that will change your reality forever. First, we're going to start with talking about Uranus in Gemini alone, without any of the other aspects involved, and what this transit means exactly. If you're not aware, Uranus is our planet of revolution, rebellion, and radical change. Uranus has the energy of an earthquake, in my opinion. When Uranus comes around, things are guaranteed to get shaken up. If you've ever seen Sailor Moon and you've seen Sailor Uranus and you see her power, it's like earth shaking or something. Like she literally causes an earthquake. And so I always think about that when Uranus is coming around, because I'm like, yeah, things are about to get shaken up very aggressively, and we just have to bear with it to the best of our ability. But everything is always meant to reshift. It's similar to Pluto. Pluto is another very disruptive planet. And as you know, we had Pluto move into Aquarius recently, and that was a big shifter. Really, all the outer planets are making massive shifts this year. And a lot of the shifts have to do around air sign energy. So Pluto moving into Aquarius, Uranus now moving into Gemini. With both disruptive planets moving into these air signs that have a lot to do with humanity and communications, we're going to see huge collective shifts on the humanitarian communication level. With Uranus specifically, this planet of radical change and disruption, moving into Gemini. Gemini is the air sign ruled by Mercury, often associated with the messenger god Hermes. There will be a lot of changes and shifts coming with the way that humans are communicating and moving about in the world. Some examples of what has happened in the past, the last times Uranus was in Gemini, are the American Revolutionary War, the American Civil War, and World War II. Now, I am not telling you this to scare you. I am just telling you so you know. These are the kinds of shifts that tend to happen when Uranus is moving through the air sign of Gemini. Some other things that happened were some big inventions. I have them jotted down here. We saw advancements such as radio broadcasting. So radio broadcasting is a huge form of communications technologically. Technological communications are a big focus with the Aquarius and Gemini energy at play. We also saw the development of mass printing, and computer technology was in the early stages of development. So Uranus and Gemini will bring a lot of shifts. We've already started to see the uprise of AI technology and using AI for information processing. So whether people are using AI for research, such as when you go on Google and AI immediately brings up a summary on Google for you, whether you're using ChatGPT intentionally, whatever it is, we're seeing the rise of AI in order for us to communicate, to create, to process information, to learn, to expand, to write. We're using AI as a large assistant tool for that. This is heavily changing the way that we function in the world as we know it. The same way that the early stages of computer technology were rapidly shifting the world back when we were in those early stages, now we're going to see another expansion in technology through forms of things like AI, or we're going to see probably more development of robotic assistants that are not just AI, but maybe actual robotic assistants and things like that. So these are the types of movements to prepare for and that we commonly will see when Uranus moves into Gemini. But on an individual level, we are going to be challenged to be curious, to be innovative and inquisitive in our own lives, because if we're not, that is when we are going to probably struggle the most during this transit. Change can be very difficult for us humans. A lot of us are very cyclical beings. We're very habitual. We rely on our rituals. We rely on comfort and a false sense of security. But really, nothing is ever truly secure when you think about it. We are constantly going through cycles. We're constantly going through rebirth. The cycle of life and death is not just physical life and death. Life and death are happening all around us and within us constantly. Our cells are constantly dying and renewing themselves. And this is the reason that your skin is able to heal, your muscles are able to heal, etc. So this is the cycle of life that is happening. And when we see Uranus moving into Gemini, and any outer planet making a major shift, we're just going through another rebirth cycle, another progression in the evolution of our lives, basically, as humans. So this new evolution on an individual level is going to challenge us to embrace change and be curious about the ways in which we can learn new things, explore new territories, be unafraid to ask yourself, what is it that is not aligning with me anymore? What is it that I should learn that will expand my mind and expand my worldview, my perspective? How can I lean into the changes that are happening in my communities and in the world right now? How can I be a productive part of that? What is it that I need to reflect on? Why are these triggering shadows in me? Why do I feel afraid? There's so many different questions you're going to face by yourself depending on your own individual journey. But Uranus and Gemini is begging you to lean into these questions and become curious in any form that you can. And this will largely depend on what house Uranus is moving through for you. But say it could be your career. You could ask yourself, what is a way that I've been holding myself back in my career? How can I lean into curiosity in order to expand myself in this career or change something for the better? How do I need to move forward in a more communicative way? Maybe in your personal relationships, these will be a focus. How do I need to start speaking up for myself and making a positive change in my personal relationships in a way that I haven't in the past or in a way that I've suppressed? Again, Uranus is the earthquake energy. So whatever you have been stagnating on and you are not willing to challenge yourself or grow yourself, Uranus will probably shake it up like an earthquake and try to inspire you and or force you into being curious about change, into evolving in a way that is healthy and productive and new, a way that is almost revolutionary to your own life. So if you're seeing some changes be invited into your life, some questions you're starting to ask yourself that feel a bit radical, that feel a bit crazy, you're like, wow, am I crazy for thinking about that? Am I crazy for thinking about making that jump or for thinking that that's possible for myself? No, you're not crazy. You're actually getting pings of curious inspiration from this transit, and those are what you should be paying attention to. Writing things down will be huge during this transit because, again, Gemini is the sign of communications, the air sign of intercommunications, including how you communicate with yourself and how your mind processes information. In order to better process whatever it is that you're going through mentally at this time, writing things down, just brain dumping, jotting down whatever comes to your mind. If an inspired idea comes to your mind, write it down immediately because you will forget it. The mind moves very quickly with Gemini at play. So writing things down will be your best friend. The first transit we'll be experiencing as Uranus moves into Gemini is Uranus conjuncting Venus in Gemini. Venus is the planet of aesthetic, art, romance, partnership, finance, values. And when we have Venus in Gemini, we are being asked to change up our look, change up the way that we view our values, change up the way that we identify with ourselves. If there's a way we feel like we've stagnated in our lives and that's kind of showing outwardly, it's showing in our physical home environment, it's showing in us going against our values maybe we have started to betray our own values and that's making us feel kind of crummy. Maybe we have stopped taking care of ourselves physically, or we have started to resort to pajamas all the time instead of dressing in a way that we actually want to, and all of this is kind of killing your confidence. Venus in Gemini is inviting you to find a way, again, curiosity. I'm probably going to say the word curiosity a million times in this video, but curiosity will be the key. So curiosity around your values, your aesthetic, your personal brand, if you will, personal brand, even if you don't actually have a business. I feel like we are all constantly representing our own personal brand, and that's what I think of when I think of Venus. It's how you kind of identify yourself via outward expression, external physical expression. So if you have fallen out of alignment with that external expression, Uranus conjuncting Venus in Gemini is going to, again, shake things up in this category, and it might make you crave exploring new looks, new identities for yourself. If you've been thinking about making some type of physical change that you are curious about, maybe trying new hairstyles, trying new makeup, trying new clothes, this is the time to start integrating that into your life because it is all about, again, exploring your curiosities in the form of your personal aesthetic, your personal values. And when I talk about values, I'm speaking more about personal relationships because Venus revolves a lot around our personal relationships as well, how we tend to build those partnerships. If you have built partnerships and relationships that are not based on your authentic self-expression, those will be violently shaken up at this time as well. And that is for your own good, because if we are building relationships while we have a mask on, are they really real relationships? No, they're false, they're an illusion, and Uranus is here to shake up what is not authentic. We have to remember that Uranus is also the ruler of Aquarius, the modern ruler of Aquarius, and Aquarius is also the sign that moves to the beat of their own drum, and it's the sign that kind of takes pride in standing out from the crowd, even if they don't want to admit it. They take pride in not thinking the same as other people and not expressing themselves or moving the same. So you're kind of going to be infused with some of that Aquarian energy as Uranus touches Venus in Gemini, because it wants you to move to the beat of your own drum. What does it feel like to you to express yourself authentically and to align closer to what authenticity looks like for you? A tip I have for you that I have been incorporating into my own life is to play with your physical expression. For me, I recently started wearing I got a couple dresses, and that's a big deal for me because I haven't worn a more like feminine dress in years, because having to tap more into my masculine energy and having to live more in like survival mode really brought me out of that femininity. And I started to actually feel kind of weird and embarrassed about the idea of wearing dresses. And I kind of just said no. When I look on Pinterest, when I'm saving fashion inspiration pictures, I save a lot of things that are way more like classy, feminine, with like kind of an edge, kind of like an urban edge to them. And I'm like, okay, clearly there's part of me that wants this femininity, this womanly look in my aesthetic. So how can I start getting closer to that and incorporating that? And it's been kind of like weirdly challenging. Like the first time I wore a dress out in public in a long time, I felt kind of embarrassed, even though nobody knows me. You know, they don't have a certain identity for me, but I have an identity for myself that I've built around my experiences that aren't necessarily authentic to me. And challenging myself to wear something that takes me out of my comfort zone is me actively challenging that identity and taking actionable steps to realign it with what does feel authentic to me. And you'll never know unless you try, unless you challenge yourself outside of that comfort zone. The comfort zone is something you've built out of the fear of those experiences that have shaped you and conditioned you into an inauthentic expression of yourself. You now express yourself in this confined way that is not true to who you are. This is what Uranus conjunct Venus in Gemini is challenging for you. So start incorporating the small changes to challenge yourself outside of your physical expression comfort zone, and maybe even in your social comfort zone. If you have been craving new social connections, start finding ways that you can garner those new social connections. I know there's like apps and websites where they hold like weekly dinners, and you can like attend a weekly dinner with people who are similar to your personality. I think I saw one recently. It's called like Meet. I don't know. If I find the name, I'll leave it here for you. But I saw that and I thought that was a really interesting thing that could be used during this transit to help you and empower you with this energy. The next transit we have is Saturn in Aries, sextile Uranus in Gemini. With this, we're being challenged to move the needle in ways that integrate into your daily routine. Saturn is the disciplinarian of astrology. He's the one that when he comes around, he's like, all right, you're either doing great or you're not doing great, but either way, how can we restructure our routines? How can we be more effective and disciplined towards the things that matter? And I do have a video on Saturn in Aries that is still a very relevant energy. If you want to go watch that, it'll be linked above. Saturn in Aries is definitely all about, again, challenging ourselves for authentic expression and doing that in a way that fits into our daily routine, into our lives. It's not about going out and doing one bold thing and then not doing it again. Saturn is all about the daily habits, the daily routines. What are we doing to structure our lives around this authentic self-expression and this lifestyle that is authentic to who we are? Because Aries is also an energy that moves to the beat of its own drum. It's a very individual, initiative energy. It's not afraid to take the path less followed if it means that it's true to who they are. So with Saturn in Aries, sextile Uranus and Gemini, you might feel tempted to take kind of impulsive action because both Aries and Gemini are pretty impulsive energies. And this can be kind of one of their Achilles heels, is this impulsivity. But it's important that you become mindful of this and create sustainable habits that are integrating your authentic expression. And when I say authentic expression, I'm not just talking about how you dress, how you act, and whatever. Those are very important. But I also mean when we're talking about Saturn and Uranus, we're really talking about the long haul, about long-term change. So when I talk about integrating authenticity into your daily life, I also mean, what are the goals that you're working towards that will make you feel more aligned? What are the things that you have abandoned? Maybe the spiritual habits, maybe the health habits, etc., that you have abandoned, that you know when you do them, you feel more aligned, you feel more clarity, you feel more harmony in your life. How can you reintegrate those? Because it's easy for us to fall off the wagon. I know I do it. We all do it at different points in time. So when Saturn comes back in, he's like, okay, how are we going to get back on track? And with Saturn sextile Uranus, which Uranus is a disruptive planet, it's like, okay, we are now not just disrupting daily routine and challenging the daily routine, we are now shaking it up so we can shift it in a direction that is much more productive and aligned with who we are. My biggest recommendation is to get mentally moving. Get your mind moving. When we have Uranus and Gemini, like I said, the mental side of everything will be much more relevant. Learning and having new experiences that help us learn and process will be very relevant at this time. We are being asked to reevaluate and create change in our monotonous daily routines. How can we shake up our daily routines in a way that allows us to learn and expand ourselves, not in a way that creates more stagnancy and complacency? My recommendation is in your daily habits, start integrating a book that is intellectually stimulating, whether it's a spiritual book, a self-development book, or maybe it's on a topic that you just are interested in and want to learn about. This is so good for your mind. A lot of times as adults especially, we only do things if we see like a direct return coming from it. But when it comes to learning, it's not necessarily about having a direct return, like you're going to make money from that or it's going to contribute to your career, but it's good for your mind and it's good for expanding your perspective. And when you expand your mind and when you work your brain like a muscle, that bleeds into other areas of your life and benefits many other areas of your life in a way that you can't see immediately, but you will see the long-term change from that. And again, these planets, the outer planets, are all about long-term change. So instilling a habit that keeps your mind sharp and expansive is going to be very beneficial at this time. For me, I've reintegrated the book Becoming Supernatural into my daily routine, and that has made me so happy. I have immediately seen the benefits because it sparks so much new thought in me to be reading that book every day. And it sparks inspiration, creative inspiration, because it gives me more ideas for content. It allows me to have more to talk about in my content. It just expands me in every way, and I can feel the change happening the more that I read. The next transit we have happening is Uranus sextile Neptune in Aries, again, going back to that Aries energy, and including another outer planet, which is Neptune. So we have Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto. They are all in the mix when it comes to this transit. But with Uranus sextile Neptune in Aries, we're going to see our sense of spiritual connection being challenged and shaken up. Whether we are going to have shadows come back up in some way, whether we are feeling triggered in certain ways. Say that you're a devout Christian, but you're going through something very difficult at this time that is challenging your faith in God or your faith in whatever you believe in. And you're starting to question and be like, why do I even believe in this? Is it even real? Like, because you're going through a challenge. This is a type of energy that may be happening at this time. But what you are being invited to do is to not necessarily doubt and question your faith in a way that is negative or pessimistic, but it's to be re-invited to evaluate your spiritual connection. Why do you feel out of alignment? Because questions like, is this even real? Like, is there even a God? Questions like that mean that something in you is out of alignment and you're putting too much focus on the external energies, something that is totally out of your hands, but you are reacting to it, acting as if you have no part in what is going on. This often comes from spiritual misalignment. There will likely be a large reevaluation of your inner self, and if you find that you're experiencing heavy dreams starting now and next month, definitely be sure to write them down because our subconscious might be activated and it might be revealing truths we either need to heal or something we need to act on. There's a strong possibility that you're getting flooded with inspiration and ideas that you didn't have prior to this transit. Like your soul is being stirred with a desire to act on these ideas all of a sudden. Because again, Gemini is the messenger sign, it's important that you take the first step by writing everything down. These inspired ideas that come to you, these spiritual downloads that come to you at this time, you need to increase your awareness of them. And one of the ways to increase the awareness of your intuition and your spiritual alignment is to make sure you're writing down everything you're experiencing. If you feel like you experience an energetic epiphany, like a spiritual download, write it down. If you have a dream that you think means something, even if you don't think it means something, actually, write it down. If you have an idea, a sudden creative idea that pops into your head, because again, Uranus in Gemini is a huge mind energy. Neptune in Aries is a spiritual subconscious energy. So we're tapping into the subconscious mind, and we're potentially getting ideas and cultivating creative inspiration that we have lacked for a while. But you don't want to forget your ideas. So you want to be sure you're writing everything down, keeping everything in your notes, keeping everything in your binder, your notebook. Kind of piggybacking off of the last aspect we talked about, learning will still be a huge focus at this time. And I think learning something in the esoteric or spiritual realm is a way that you can kind of stack these energies and use them both in conjunction with each other. So the way I've been reading Becoming Supernatural, for example, that is an esoteric book that kind of explains, it's like the metaphysical. And I feel like it's a very fitting topic for me to read about during this energetic time. I highly encourage you to pick up a spiritual text of some kind, something that taps you back into your spiritual mindset, your soul, your heart, your energetic alignment, because when we stop learning spiritually, that also decreases our alignment with our spiritual faith, with our spiritual journey. And our spiritual journey is something that happens constantly. It never ends for our entire lives. We're never fully spiritually enlightened. There's always something to continue our journey. And if we don't keep ourselves in alignment, constant experiences and things that we face, obstacles we face, challenges we meet are going to bring us out of alignment if we don't constantly reevaluate and invite ourselves to expand our spiritual journey and take new steps in that journey that are productive to our alignment. At this time, you'll probably feel like an energetic, spiritually expansive sponge that wants to learn more about the world around you. When we have Uranus at play, and a lot of the other energies at play, again, humanity is a huge focus, and getting curious about the way other people live their lives, being more in tune with the energies around you, or at least more empathetic or understanding of them, will be very beneficial at this time as well. Diving into this can even lead to a lot of divine inspiration and creative inspiration that you didn't have before either. Lastly, we have Uranus trine Pluto in Aquarius. And I have written down here that this transit will challenge shadows and areas that you have held yourself back in due to traumas or shadows that are being invited to change. So when we deal with Pluto, we're dealing with the rebirth planet connected to the Phoenix, which is connected to Scorpio. The Phoenix is the ultimate symbol and like ascension or enlightenment of a Scorpio, when Scorpio has finally learned to rise from the ashes of the many deaths that they experience. And again, death is metaphorical. It's not all about just literal physical death, but it's about the death of a lot of things. We can have rebirths many times in our lives. We can be born anew many times in our lives because of many things that we experience. So with Uranus, again, being the earthquake energy shaking everything up, we're being challenged here when it comes to our shadows and our traumas. Pluto in Aquarius as well also brings a large disruptive energy to the areas in which our traumas or our shadows have kept us stuck, stagnant, complacent, living in a way that is just not who we are. It's not authentic. It is not productive to who we are. This is not an aggressive aspect. This is actually a very harmonious aspect. It's a trine. So this energy is like a warm hug where Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius are kind of holding hands and opening their arms to you and saying, hey, change doesn't have to be seen as bad or scary. Growing through our shadows, healing from our emotional traumas does not have to be bad or scary. It's just an invitation that is inviting you into the rebirth that turns you into the beautiful phoenix that you're meant to be in order to live a life that is fulfilling, full of all of the dreams that you aspire to achieve. In order to do that, you must heal these things. And that is what can be so exciting about the healing journey. And every time that we meet a challenge and we are invited to grow from it, we only become more powerful. It's like in video games. You have to go through certain things. You have to fight certain monsters, fight certain people, go through certain difficult levels in order to level up. But as you do, your character becomes stronger, more untouchable, more enlightened. And that is what is so exciting about the challenges. So Uranus and Gemini will be shaking you up in this way and challenging those shadows into change. Instead of being scared of your shadows, be curious about them. Be curious about them, talk to them, question them, invite conversation with them, and learn from them, because that's all we can do. We're always going to go through challenges and obstacles, but the productive way to use those challenges and obstacles is to actively learn from them and use what you learned in an intentional way to build the life that you want and become the person that you aspire to be. This change may even open you up to dreams, beliefs, ideas, inspiration that you were closed off to before, because the more that we learn in life, the more that we open ourselves to the possibilities, the more open-minded and open-hearted you become through experiencing many different things in life. So you're probably going to be more curious as well about things that you weren't curious about before. And this can lead to you finding more creative spark and inspiration towards living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling to you. Because the more accepting you are of yourself and who you are, the more accepting you are of the world. So think of it as having your own internal renaissance. If you're ready to make the radical change in your life that shifts your reality forever, be sure you leave a comment down below and let me know, because I know I am. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos like this one. And you can watch the following videos provided on the end screen that will help you so much more on your astrological and self-development journey. But until I see you next time, adios.